John Doe Radio. 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 Radio.
You're listening to the John Doe Radio Show.
It's the John Doe Radio Show. How much higher can you get?
Well, what the president said during the campaign, you'll be surprised to know, will be consistent with what we'll be doing here in law enforcement.
And now talking about legalizing marijuana and taxing marijuana to solve budget problems.
Prohibition doesn't work. Maybe after 71 years, it's time for a new approach.
We should be able to give our kids the message we think is appropriate.
A rational, safer choice.
Great celebration of freedom.
Legalize the possession of marijuana.
John Doe Radio.
Yo. What up? It is I, John Doe. Thanks for hanging out with me. What up, yo? Had an issue with the mouse pad there. Took a second to get started. May or may not have been hash on the mouse pad. We reposition this mic. All right, whatever. It's fine. Today, Friday. Today, Friday, we're going to be talking about the news from this week. Quite some awesome news. And shiz going down. Hold on one second here. Let me rebalance this. I promise I've done this before. I swear to God. We've been in this before. We've done this show. Act like you've been before, you've been here before, goddammit. All right. I think we got everything. It's going to take me a minute to get kind of comfortable with the controls back in this ship again. So I apologize if there's ever, hiccups on that side of things with seeming less professional than we normally would. As if we're professional here on the John Doe Radio Show. I mean, come on, give me a freaking break here. My camera being an asshole again. It's all good. We fly from the seat of our pants with this whole thing. Maybe someday we'll actually have like $1 million budget, where we can go and buy professional cameras. We can buy a professional setup, have like these fancy mics, kind of like Shroud's got going there with his, $2,000 amazing mic that he has. Shoot, look behind me. I'm already making it look extra special up in here for y'all. I don't know how it's gonna probably transfer to reading stories in the white background, but you know what? I don't enjoy sitting and staring at a bright light for 2 hours. It just completely drains the mojo out of everything. It's like people who sit in a cube all day in an office space, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I've been there before. It's many people's bread and butter. Maybe not today with Rona going around, having that, that be an issue. Hopefully you being able to work from home, and the companies have realized that they can save money and time sometimes. Well, maybe not time. I don't know why I said time. They can save money and space, rentals, all that other stuff from having an office just by having you work from home. So anyway, look, green screen behind me with the blue, a little bit of a hue shift. Now I look like a little yellowish, I think, here. It's because I turned on the light a little brighter than I normally would have had it. But it looks good. It was starting to come together. The camera. I swear to God, if any of you clip that, you're banned. Even if you're the first subscriber, first follower here at John Doe Radio, if that may have been the worst since I was a teenager. Did you guys hear that? That was cleared the throat, and then it was squeak. All right, anyway, moving on with everything. some awesome, cool news to talk to you about here today. And then also we will have some giveaways and promotions to talk about next week here on the John Doe Radio Show. I'm going to sit down with Bike and discuss the seed giveaways that we're going to roll forward with Get Seeds right here. My man Bike in the chat room. So we'll get that together, and then we'll talk about that more in the future. Vape Nation, baby. This week, something that I didn't get to talk to you about because yesterday, just my personal scheduling prevented me from kind of getting here to the show with you guys. Let's see, so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Yeah, that does look kind of weird with that there. Let me move this over here. Hey, why is that all the way up there like that? What? That from? Oh yeah, I see what we did there. I see what I did there. This camera over here, and then I really need to trim the edge. Let me see if I can put that here, there, like that. Look, we're already looking better. I was staring so intently there for a few seconds over in the corner, trying to get the pot, the slider, the volume thing for the song down just one tick. I need a new mouse. The mouse is getting old. Recreational marijuana sales. Whoa. Recreational marijuana sales in Arizona have started today. This is something that I talked about with the bros in the chat. The homies in the Discord yesterday about that. I thought it was pretty crazy. My friend who we'll be talking with here on the show, and hopefully he'll be doing some cool stuff with us. Just an old school homie of JDR, my big homie Chris. He messaged me and was talking about how cannabis legalization was going to be, or cannabis legalization and sales were going to be starting in Arizona. And I said, oh, cool. I admittedly, I'm going to be getting caught up with some things in cannabis news just along right side with you guys, you know, admittedly, I'm a little bit embarrassingly behind on getting up to the rule changes and then the states that passed legalization this last go round. I'm a little bit behind on following up on what exactly has happened in these places and what the exact in and out details of that are. But I get caught up very easily with this type of stuff, and I think it's pretty fun to be the React Andy sometimes with these rules and laws and kind of go a little bit over top with it. Talk a little bit about some of the craziness and first emotions that we have now that I'm a little bit older, can kind of think back on things a little bit quicker, maybe have a shoot from the hip fire reaction, fire off, and then come back to the table and say, okay, well, maybe this side of things, through experience and through seeing how some of these rules and regulations have played out. Recreational marijuana sales in Arizona started today. And yesterday, like I was saying, Chris told me that they had started to take recreational applications last week. And in taking those recreational applications last week, one of the things that they were telling people in the state of Arizona was that they were not going to announce when exactly the sales were going to start. By the way, guys in the chat, is the music just a touch too loud or is it good? Because it's hard for me in my headphones kind of tell until we get the two PC setup and I can actually kind of hear myself. The balance sounds kind of weird. But let me know. Anytime this year would be nice. It's tabbed out and they're like, oh, son of a... What are you doing? Down just a little bit there. All right. That might be a little bit better right there. I was listening back through the last one, and we needed a little bit. We needed a little bit more background music. It was not as it wasn't the JDR. I couldn't feel the groove that I normally do with it. That's better now. That was a little bit high. Yeah. Felt a little bit high. The nerves calmed down a little bit. The adrenaline stopped pumping, and the excitement of starting a show with 4 or 5 people watching. It's great. Thank you guys for being here. I'm just being a smart ass with myself. Then I start to realize these things. You're like, shit. That's why it helps to have a second producer. But anyway, so the biggest thing that stuck out to me when we were discussing taking in these applications a week ago for the state of Arizona was another thing that I noticed too, is that because this camera's right here, with my hand actions, I'm always like trying to point at you guys and touch you in your face like that. I'm sorry. It made me uncomfortable watching back. Specialty of mine, making people feel uncomfortable. So one of the craziest things that was part of all this was they told everybody they weren't going to announce when these sales were going to start because of coronavirus going around. They didn't want to have crowds form. They didn't want to have lines. They didn't want to have people congregate and in anticipation for these openings, which has happened in every other state. I mean, it was thinking about it, it was something that was something well thought out. It was something good looking out on their parts. I mean, it's their jobs to be able to take care of stuff like that, take notice of stuff like that, and then be able to react and plan for it. So that was good. But then the second part of that was the thought of, okay, so you're just going to drop the sales date on everybody randomly. And as I joked, like the hottest album drop of 2021. Outside of the immunizations and the shots, it's the hottest drop of 2021. Arizona legalization sales coming to you soon. TM. And it worried me a little bit. One of the things that I thought about was that, because they would just randomly drop it, there would be a rush. And it would there was no real avoiding what they were going to want to avoid running into with crowds, because not only people with great planning for weed things, especially like sales and grand openings and lining up and all that good stuff, people are great at anticipating things. And when the hive mind kind of gets together and starts working it a little bit, as we saw at the Capitol here recently, shit just kind of happened. And I'm not saying shit just kind of happened there at the Capitol. But the people make shit happen, and it gets done. So even though they would have delayed, or even though they wouldn't have announced the opening, there still probably would have been a rush of people when they announced this. And it could have been a situation that was more dangerous than a situation if they would have put down the dates in the first place. You would probably catch businesses off guard. In that instance, you're going to catch people in their preparations for, anti-COVID measures off guard. So it's very important that they do this correctly if they were going to do it. So what did they do? Now, granted, I woke up this afternoon because I really have no sleep schedule. That's why there's no specific schedule with JDR right now. I'm thinking 10 Mountain Time, which is 7 p.m. Mountain Time right now. Might be a good starting time and something to aim for. But anyway, God, I can't get sidetracked. God damn it. See, like I did, start to lose the train of thought. The past 2 days, man, this happened. It just ejected the forward-thinking thought. That's where the chat would come in, and you guys would say, hey, this is what you were talking about. So woke up this morning, sales, oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. Being a goddamn absolute degenerate, at least with the sleep schedule. Woke up this morning at 5 p.m. And went to go looking through news. I already had news lined up from the previous few days, and saw this headline in there and was genuinely surprised. You know, like the Pikachu meme, where the Pikachu is like, "But can I get the PogChamp?" Like the Pikachu meme. That's what I was like when I saw this article. And I was genuinely impressed. It was a very good rollout, a very good announcement for how to get this done. And here's the thing: is my homie Chris Custer had talked to a dispensary yesterday, and reminiscing back on the conversation that we had yesterday. He talked with this dispensary, and from the sounds of it, the dispensary was kind of like, we're going to open any day now, you know, kind of elbowing him in the side, you know, after rethinking the conversation that he actually did have with these guys. So they probably knew, is where I'm heading with that, is they probably had an idea, but were not allowed to say anything because it would be unthinkable. What I really should have done is I should have lined up a dispensary in Arizona, or at least called, and that's what I'll do. That's what I'll do tomorrow. Is I'll make a couple phone calls to some dispensaries in Arizona and find out if they were warned ahead of time, if this was something that was going to happen, if they were going to open their storefront this morning. Because I think that's something I would assume that would happen. I'd be surprised if it did not happen like that, and it would be somewhat of a concern, you know, if the state did not inform the recreational dispensaries that, hey, you know, we're opening sales today. A lot of these places are probably going to be prepared anyway, maybe not for the crowds that they have, because, you know, Arizona already has medical marijuana, and a lot of these places are, you know, dual medical marijuana recreational places. By the way, today we're listening to, dude, when you click off this, like, there must be a hidden ad or something that I have ad blocked. Click off of this and it goes back to the beginning homepage. Big thanks to Mega Drive. If you like the music that you're hearing, the music at the beginning, when we first started up the show, the music in the background, it is a band called Mega Drive. Big thanks to all the bands and artists that make it possible for people like myself, from the very, very smallest all the way up to biggest, to be able to play their music royalty-free. The DMCA war, that's something we'll have to discuss in the future a lot more about, because I think there's a unique perspective that I have from not only working in radio, terrestrial radio, but also, you know, doing the podcast and trying to skirt those rules, you know, from 2007 on, you know, having connections with, you know, artists, people like Cypress Hill, Slightly Stupid, you know, a few connections, DJ from Slipknot, getting permission to play certain music back in the day was a little bit, it seems like it was a little bit more simpler in those times, but the only thing that really made it simpler in those times was the fact that they didn't have bots, you know, trying to find DMCA-able music, which is kind of what's happening right now. So, also, if you could, tell your friends about the John Doe Radio podcast. The shows will be in here too. Until we can, I'm not going to bug you about spreading the word, or I'm not going to be too worried about how many people are watching the show until we clear the hurdles here at Twitch to be able to monetize and get all the options that we'd like to have, you know, bits and stuff like that. So we have to have an average of 3 viewers. So currently I'm at like 3.6 viewers, and we have 3 right now. So thank you guys. You guys are real homies. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Recreational marijuana sales have started in Arizona, with many of the state's medical marijuana dispensaries getting the okay Friday to open sales to anyone 21 and older. The Harvest Health Recreational Dispensary in Scottsdale got approval at about noon. The staff quickly broke out signs showing where recreational customers would check in, separating them from medical customers. Public sales of marijuana, vape pens, and edible products such as gummies and candies followed the passage of Prop 207 in November, making it legal for adults to possess marijuana. It is the fastest that any of the 15 states with recreational marijuana has gone from voter approval to actual sales. Something, kudos to you, Arizona, the Arizona government, the people of Arizona. That is nothing short of an incredible accomplishment. Now, not only is it an incredible accomplishment, why can I not put incredible and accomplishment together? There we go. Feeling normal JDR again. It's an incredible accomplishment to not only get this done in the first place, but to have it done in a timely manner, in a manner that is not only done well with cannabis, but sometimes not done well in almost everything across the board in some states when it comes to implementing laws and rules. Something this quickly, Prop 207 in November, we're January 22nd, that even in the best case of scenarios, that's a pretty incredible, awesome feat for Arizona to have got done. And really, the simple part about it, probably just cut some of the red tape. Cut some of the BS that goes along with implementing the rules and the processes in all this. Ballot measure also allows Arizona's 120 or so existing medical dispensaries to apply to the Department of Health Services to sell recreational marijuana to adults. Soon after, harvest workers at the Scottsdale location got the office approval for recreational sales from the Arizona Department of Health Services. The State Department released a list of dozens of dispensary operators that are also approved for recreational sales. Medical marijuana dispensaries that got approved to sell recreational marijuana on Friday include 13 of the 15 harvest shops in the state, all 8 Curaleaf shops, the Mint locations in Guadalupe and Mesa, 3 Territory dispensary locations, and dozens of other places across the state, including Tucson, Yuma, Flagstaff, Cottonwood, and Sedona. You know, one of my favorite words in the human existence is Guadalupe. Is that Guadalupe? I don't know, man. It's just like a all-inclusive, complex, compelling word. It's compelling. It's sexy. On the other hand, you have Yuma, which is probably, one of the most boring. Yuma is the JDR of JDR to podcasting and stuff like that. Yuma is that too word. At about 12:15, a Scottsdale man named Chuck, you farkin' website. It is a habit to click on the side of the article, be able to scroll down, and when you have an article on the side of the website that I can't even see because I'm using ad blocker, and I click that article every time, it's making me look like an even bigger idiot than I already am. Hopefully, people tabbed out and they have no clue what's going on, and they're just like, dude, get on with it. If you're watching, you might be watching a train wreck. If you're listening to a train wreck. Oh my God. We need another 1 or 2 people. Click your mouse 3 and drag. Yeah. Yep. I mean, but once you're already into your ways, you're already into your ways. 12:15, Chuck walked into the dispensary. After showing his identification and checking in, he perused the shop without a line. And that's exactly what they were aiming for, is for people to be able to show up to these shops, not have a line, and not have to have an elevated risk of putting themselves at COVID. He chose a vape pen with Tropic Thunder and Skunk No. 1 marijuana strain cartridges and pre-rolled peanut butter breath joint. After taxes, he paid $121. The dude said, "I was just driving by and asking if they were open yet." I mean, come on, bro. If the world and Jeebus and anything that is whatever highly is not smiling down on you at that moment, I absolutely don't know what would be. I don't know what better day you would have. Thank you. You just drive it by and you're like, You know, I know that they're probably not going to sell me a bag of place. I mean, it takes a little bit of balls, too. They're probably not going to sell me any weed at this place, but I heard that they could be open anytime soon. You know, really, maybe his buddy's sitting in the seat next to him. He's like, hey, John, I think we would have heard if they were open. I mean, we could have that kind of accent in Arizona, could we? John, I heard that they were going to be opening, but don't you think that they would have had something? That's making Arizona sound like a bunch of idiots. It's just one of the only voices I have. God damn it. Don't you think that that we would have heard that on the news? That would have been something that there would have been lines out front of? No. I'm gonna have to practice a little bit more on that. You can either make it a train wreck and have it absolutely laughable that way and entertaining, or you can do it well. We've erred on the train wreck side of things. So yeah. So that's a pretty awesome day for that guy. What was funny is like that guy leaves and he's got his bag in his hand. He sticks it underneath his armpit. He pulls out his phone. He's like, "It's open," dunk, and then just like a crowd just comes in, you know, like a cartoon. Freaking Black Friday. Everybody just, you know, comes through, big crowd, and then a bunch of smoke. All the dust leaves. There's nothing there. Everything's just been wiped out. Yeah. Anyway, you never know with social media these days. It's just like flash mobbing it. Something important too that we could talk about here real quick as a side topic. We'll get on. Let me tell you what other news too that we have the potential of getting to here today, depending on how random we get with the other things. Oh yeah, this Mega Drive, fantastic Mega Drive. Mega Drive. This is off of I think 1980. I forgot. Anyway, Mega Drive's dope. Go check them out, and especially those 19XX albums that they have. So vape pens. Let's talk about vape pens for a second, because I think this is an important topic that we will continuously go over here on JDR. Speaking of vape pens, the vape pen sales process is very misleading, and vape pen products, when it comes down to cannabis vape pen products, you know, the information on them are pretty sketchy, and the sales process behind it pretty sketchy. So in order to, and maybe I'm preaching to the choir to people that already know in here, but get it down on record. Maybe a few people come and listen later on, and then also kind of refresh my brain on things. The vape pens, in order for them to work, you have a vape pen. I have one that's been sitting here for a minute. That was like part of a promotion for Christmas, I think. So you have the vape pens, vape cartridges right here, and they're super cheap. These things are not very expensive, and they're not made the best either. So it's a pretty simple type product. The fact that when you go to buy a vape pen at dispensaries, and the return rate is so high on them, you know, when you plug them in, they don't work or they leak or whatever. I mean, it's just it's a disposable product in a semi-non-disposable looking outfit, and it's frustrating because there's just so much waste and bullshit that goes with these vape cartridges. Not only with the vape cartridge, but with the packaging. You know, places like Colorado and everywhere. You know, you have to have certain child-proof packaging. Companies have had to innovate ways to put. I still had. Not that I want to promote them. Wish I still had one of the unique packages that I have seen when it comes to vape carts. I don't have one sitting around anywhere. I'm pretty sure I threw everything away that was involved with that company. But the packaging with this the specific vape cartridge I'm talking about, it just sat in this little box, and then you stuck your fingers in the box, giggity, and then your thumb in the bottom of the box, giggity, and pushed up, giggity, and moved it out. So it was a pretty cool little box, and that was considered, child resistant. There's nothing child-proof, just things that are child resistant. And then all the crap that goes along with this, that's just thrown in the trash, metal parts, plastic, all that stuff. But it's just, they're not made super extremely well, and there are varying quality standards when it comes to these cartridges, anywhere from, the super cheap from, under $1 all the way up to, $3 or something, I think, for, the top end type of cartridges that are used originally for the solventless cartridge that Dab Logic here in Colorado released. So not many solventless cartridges out there that are true solventless cartridges, that are quality solventless cartridges. Only a few companies that I know of here in Colorado. Dab Logic's one of them, but they had to have a specially made cartridge for the type of material that is put into the material that's put into these cartridges. It's not the same as what you would find inside, just a regular vape pen. That's obvious. And then on top of that, not only is it not the same product, it's not the same consistency either, ever. I mean, truly, it's one of the most, that's ultimately what we're talking about, and why it's difficult for you to have a quality vape cartridge, and for companies to make that, is because you do have that consistency issue. It's too thick a lot of the times, and then these cartridges get too hot. They don't get hot enough. The wicking system inside of them are absolute dog shiz. So in order to avoid that process and avoid those issues, up until now, a few companies have solved this issue. A few companies have solved this issue. I'm having a problem. My brain just wants to run every single sentence together right now. And one of the goals I've had is to slow down a little bit. Get too excited about things. Consistency. So one of the ways to solve that, and one of the ways to get back to a singular consistency, is heat. Heat the butane, hash oil, heat whatever it is, and then get that back down to a control level and a control consistency that would work inside a cartridge like this. And not only are you dealing with a few issues, that's not a great way to deal with any type of cannabis product. Heating the cannabis product is changing the molecular makeup of what you're using, making it into a different product than what you grew, or a different product than what is being advertised on the shelf. When you go to buy something, and because, like we talked about the day before yesterday with testing and how labs are so inaccurate with a lot of these things, it's a product that really gets thrown up in the air quality-wise, and that is heavily concerning. And then you also have CO2 cartridge products, which, as I'll tell you time and time again, it would be really difficult for me to take a CO2 cartridge advertiser here on JDR, because I don't think that you should be smoking CO2 cartridges. Before we get off topic, we were talking about exactly how the consistency CO2 cartridges have inherently, or just CO2 in general, the hash inherently has water molecules in it because of how supercritical the extraction process is. The column pull, the environment inside the column pulls all the air from everything and then injects it into the hash, and then post-processing from that point forward is really something that's difficult to do. And I'm not going to say impossible, because it's not, and it's been done on quality level, not enough, I don't think, to be smoked. But I've seen good quality products out there that can be turned into other products made from CO2 that don't have, that high-end water content, H2O content, that just right out of the column would have. So when you're smoking that water vapor, especially in a vapor form, you know, not just lighting it on fire and then inhaling it, you know, that can be a quicker way, or it is a quicker way to burn. So therefore, water molecules can be, you know, vaporized off a lot quicker. When you have an actual vape, obviously things are going at a lower temperature, so you have that water vapor that's getting extended around. This is the whole design of the thing, that's getting extended, you know, to your lungs at a extremely high temperature. So it's a super harsh product for a lot of people, and especially people that have issues with asthma and issues with their lungs. That's not something that you want to inhale. It's not something that you want to get involved with. It's gonna cause you issues. So I'm not a proponent of people smoking CO2 by any means. So getting back to the BHO cartridges and somewhat with solventless cartridges, here's the thing with solventless. This whole process, from what I knew, and from what I still know today to be true, on quite a few levels, there are only a couple companies that are actually making cartridges with cannabis extract in them that are 1-to-1 what you would get dabbing. So say you were to go buy hash, you know, in a shop, and bam, you were to get that, pull it out with a dabber, smoke it. There are very few products, if only a couple out there, that are this put straight into this dab cartridge, which a lot of people just they don't know, unfortunately, and a lot of companies misrepresent that information. So really what happens is, for that company to get back to the process where it is thinner, they not only heat the oil, but also in many cases, you know, if you're lucky, it's something that's, you know, heated and then filtered out a little bit and then cut with, most companies are not doing it anymore, but like cut with like glycerin, you know, anything non-cannabis product-wise that could be used in a vaporizer. That type of stuff was used at the beginning of all this, but it's not really used like that anymore, which is good. But still, it has to be cut in some sort of way, or you distill it. And distill it is the most common product that's put inside of these vape cartridges. And then a little bit of terpenes. If you're lucky, you're getting cannabis terpenes. The majority of the time, you're not getting cannabis terpenes, or you're getting a natural, like super extracted. That's not a scientific word for what I'm talking about, but not like, if you were to extract terpenes from the cannabis plant and put them in a vial, the cost of that vial of terpenes per gram, whatever 1-to-1 cost per gram of hash, is astronomical. It's crazy. If you were to package just straight terpenes into a product and then sell that, people have tried to do it before, companies, and it hasn't gone over well, at least here in Colorado. You know, as far as sales, I'll pay attention to chat here in a second. I realize that I, you know, can get off into tangents, and, you know, once chat starts moving quickly, if ever that happens, we're kind of hosed with trying to keep up with things. God damn it. And I forgot what the final fucking part of that I was going to say. At least these noobs that are listening to JDR, noobs to JDR is what I mean. We were talking about terpenes. See, getting better. At least the people that are new to JDR and coming in now are they're right off the bat getting to know what it's like here on the show. The only thing is, like, you guys don't get a view of right away of having a co-host like Bike or Derek, you know, ribbing me and giving me shit. So that, you know what it'll be? That'll be the chat room. That'll be the chat room that ends up giving me shit. All right, we're talking about terpenes, talking about BS, and then chat question. And then back to finishing how these cartridges are made and why they're kind of kind of silly. When I have somebody sitting in front of me, I explain this very concisely and quickly, like we have done with a few other things the past couple of days. But since we have a little bit of time to stretch and hang out, why not ramble a little bit on this? Are extracts like this all about THC, or can there be different strains with different effects in extracts and edibles like this? So edibles, let's cover that real quick. That's a good question. When it comes down to edibles, how they are made and how it is processed through your body. So going back to our conversation about, indica sativa, here on the John Doe Radio Show, we're going to be talking indica sativa hybrid. We might use hybrid a little bit more, but honestly, probably give it disclaimers when we do use it. But that doesn't exist. That type of stuff. Trying to think of how I want to produce the show here while I'm also trying to explain complicated things. Indica sativa, it doesn't exist. That's not something that you should be looking at when you go to find your cannabis strains. What you should be looking at is terpenes. We won't beat a dead horse again, because I think this some of the same people are probably still here today. Zix, for instance. Specifically with edibles and cartridges, I think is what you're talking about. We'll get more into that tangent about not being indica sativa, etc., because of the terpenes and how they react independently with each person. That's very important information to know, though, so keep that in mind. The cartridges, though, so very, 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 very important question. Focus, John Doe. Edibles, it doesn't really matter that much at all, period. Not only because are most edibles made with straight THC, it's rare that you're going to find edibles on the market unless they're marketed that way as a full spectrum extract. The other problem there is, which sucks too, is that you have a lot of companies that sell cartridges and sell extracts like this that are going to be advertising their products as a full spectrum extract, but is what it actually is are distillate, a combination of distillate with cannabis terpenes added back in. And whatever those, and I'm going to put terpenes in a quote here because who knows, one of the things that I was getting into and kind of got off track about is that especially with the solventless cartridges, is that you have people that know these things. Knowledge is power, man. Knowledge is money. It used to be, and we know here on JDR because we talked with quite a lot of people that were pioneers in hash making, and I'd like to think that we helped popularize, a few things like ice water hash extraction, or not that we helped popularize that in the sense that we were a conduit to people explaining some things that weren't popularly known and giving some details on tech and the inside of how you do this. You at home can do it this way. You at home shouldn't be open blasting this way, and that's something that was important. That was something that, back in the very beginning days of when we started medical cannabis and we started shops here in Colorado, it was a community thing, and a lot of that information was spread from one person to another very openly, and people were proud of that. Today, that doesn't happen, really, at all. We're going to try and crack that quite a bit. I'm not 100% convinced that people are just shut down and not wanting to share things, that it's become this jaded bullshit type situation where people just don't want to educate others anymore because their ideas got bastardized or whatever reason. I'm not a believer in that. I used to think that, but more and more as I got out into Colorado and into shops and my experience with owners and people behind the scenes, it's that number one, they've signed NDAs in a lot of these cases and they can't talk about these things necessarily, and two, the close-knit circle discussion of, okay, this is how you do things, the buddy-buddy discussion, this is how you do things, stopped. because then maybe your buddy go do what you were talking about and steal your idea, bastardize the whole thing. That type of thing may have closed off more. But the want and the need for some of these people to educate and get that information out there in the right situation, maybe like an interview, how to, doing the JDR show, someone that's, professional, that's pro cannabis and going to be positive with them, just need a positive outlet for that where they know people are going to be responsible with it. I'm more of a believer in thinking that is how we would want to do things in the future. And that's a road that is less traveled but still open, rather than people just, shutting off their ideas to everything. So edibles. Because most of it is used to distill it, and because THC reacts to almost everybody in the same way, it's either going to get you overwhelmingly high in a lot of cases, if you take too much, or it's going to get you. It's so hard to explain a feeling. Love is a feeling. Okay, I promise I might not ever do that again. No real promises, but we might not. Sorry about your ears. It's so hard to explain a feeling, really, when it comes down to it. But when we're explaining feelings in regards to cannabis, like what the fuck? THC and how it reacts to each individual person is the one thing in cannabis that we can say is going to react the same in almost every person. There is that pattern. It's a why every time I go to search for this word the past few days, can I not find the goddamn word that I'm looking for? Something that you expect. It's something. It's an expected. You can anticipate the high that you're going to get from it. It's not random generally, and the only time that it is random is if you take a little bit too much, or whatever. But you feel generally the same way almost every time. Rather, with terpenes, it's a roller coaster, and it's a ride, and it's a different roller coaster, and it's a different ride with each terpene and each individual person. You have your own amusement park, your own rides. It's your own thing, and nobody else reacts to that combination of the terpenes and the cannabis as you do. And just like everything that humans are, it's a spectrum, and there are experiences and there are reactions along that spectrum every which way you can possibly think of. And so that's why indica sativa doesn't exist. And then also that's kind of why with edibles that there's not that difference and variance with people, and then also because of the way that the terpenes would be processed in your body and the way that THC processing your body, well, terpenes really is throughout the THC that I just said. The way that terpenes are processed in your body is not the same way that it is when you're smoked. THC processed through the liver, terpenes processed through various whatever it is have a wide ranging effects when used internally. Now, I am a firm believer that terpenes do have an effect that they do help in an edible and should be included in an edible, not only because full spectrum extracts, when included with a cannabis, full spectrum extracts, because they're including, not only the THC cannabinoid, they're including all those other cannabinoids. It's all a building block. It's all a picture. It works together. The dots have to be connected in order for them to have the best effect on your body. So if you take out, CBD, CBG, whatever, one of those building blocks, another block is going to be affected by that. It's not going to react in your body scientifically the same exact way every time, obviously, because you're not ingesting, and every plant and extract has a different makeup. But even if you were, it's just not reacting the same every single time. But there are a lot of evidence. There's a lot of evidence through history that shows we have made concoctions and brews, teas, made from leaves, made from other terpenes, extracts that have been used, on humans that have had a positive effect on our health and recreationally in some ways, effect on our. Why, dude? There's specific word. I'm like, I think what my brain's trying to do right now with some of these discussions is make it a little bit more than what it is. It's like trying to be fancy with something. It's trying to put a delicacy on the table for you when we like the hamburgers. Keep it hamburger, baby. So yeah, the terpenes added to edibles. Those are super important too when it comes down to it, because they do have a positive effect on people. It's just researching what that positive effect is, if there are patterns, what those patterns show. And I apologize if I left a few statements open-ended here the past few minutes. Try not to do that, but when we get rambling and until my brain actually throws all away the bullshits and starts lining up bullets and keeping things in line, then we'll feel more comfortable. Until testing, the processes with that get better, it's going to be difficult to really kind of tell more about this stuff, and it would be difficult for companies to have any sort of motivation to include more full spectrum, to go above and beyond than what they're already doing currently in the process. There's just there's no reason for them to do that, because they're number one, weed sells itself. You don't really need to have any what custies will buy anything. You sell them an edible, or you sell them a distillate cartridge, and you're like, it's weed. A lot of people, and there's no offense to people out there, and especially if you're learning right now, and that goes towards you. But the reason why we have some of the worst products that we do, the reason why we're talking about this cartridge thing, the reason why you don't have full spectrum inside these edibles is because, number one, companies could be more responsible, and two, custies and customers will buy it. If they didn't buy it, it wouldn't sell, and then you wouldn't have the product. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that. GetSeedsRightHere.com. Bike dropping that. We will be giving away some seeds. GetSeedsRightHere.com if you're one of the people that's just joining us. Let's get back to this news thing. Let's finish out the cartridge thing. So with the cartridges, distillate is added into them, and then there are terpenes added in. Where the terpenes come from, we don't know. Hopefully they're cannabis terpenes. As we mentioned before, the terpenes per volume are crazy more expensive than full spectrum hash by volume. Just the way that it is. The process to get those terpenes and pull them out. You got to remember with hash and cannabis, like we talked about with the CO2, it just wants to hold on to everything. It's a stick. It not only does it get sticky and just stay everything, on a molecular level, it wants to do that too. In ways. God, man, I feel this whole conversation with you guys and about these cartridges and edibles and stuff has been such a disjointed, jackass conversation, but hopefully you got something out of it. So that's what you're dealing with, and a lot of the distillate is supposedly is made. The process, the way that it's made, they all should be kind of the same level of quality, so to speak, but you always have a starting material with everything, and the stuff that is put inside these cartridges is not going to be most of the time the best starting material that you can buy anywhere. It's just not. So until we get better at that, there are companies that have the ability to put a close to finished full spectrum product in these, but you know, as we were mentioning before, those secrets are guarded and they're not talked about very much. And if they are talked about, they're talked about in very general terms, in very wide kind of like, oh, this is this is maybe how it's done. Wink, wink. So that does get frustrating. I think we finished out that the cartridge talk there. Give me a quick second here. Make sure we're still on Mega Drive. We is still on Mega Drive. Back to the news. How far are we into this? See, now we're back into the old JDR. We're 1 hour into the show, and we haven't even covered a full article. Woo! I love it. 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 And my voice is still doing good. That's good. All right. News articles. Game capture, display capture. Back to it. Zix, but hopefully that answered your question about the edibles. Different strains, different extracts in edibles and stuff like that. So you can buy on the packaging, it'll say full spectrum extract. But like I mentioned, even when you ask people in the dispensary or read on the packaging, it's not going to say, hey, look, this is what we did. We separated it out. We added it back. We separated out the THC from all the other cannabinoids. And there's so much critical information that we're skimming over inside all this too, because, you know, you separate out the THC and you get terpenes, or you're trying to get CBD or whatever. You know, in this process, there's all the other building blocks, and until we figure out to separate those building blocks, you know, you're still getting, you know, outside of pure THC, outside of pure CBD, you know, in anything else, terpenes, that's where your cannabinoids are at. That's where the rest of the shit is. So really what these companies are doing, they're splitting off your THC, they're giving you the THC and then taking 90% of the product back is what it is. I mean, that's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's what's happening. I mean, you're in a way, quote unquote, getting ripped off, for lack of a better term. Ripped off through science and ripped off through business practices, which is frustrating on both ends, because both ends it feels like we can, both ends feel uncontrollable, but really the businesses, they have the ability to push these things further and make these products better, but very, very few have taken the reins and opportunity to do so. There are companies that are out there working behind the scenes to get some pretty incredible things done. The things that we're talking about here with extract terpenes, adding things back in, specifically a company that I worked for, working with one of the largest companies in the entire world. Let's just say, you know, Bayer, Monsanto. It's not Monsanto, but it's the same company that owns them. Can't think of the investment group. The overriding massive company that owns everything. I worked for them. But they have labs and they have companies like the company I worked for, you know, Miracle Grow, tons of other grows, tons of other labs and companies that have been around for forever, all working on individual products and trying to pull those individual products together to form a new tech or to form another new product. And ultimately, what's the big goal is to find out, to break down the science, the DNA, the makeup of cannabis completely, so that we can put it back together completely. We can learn everything about it, slice it apart. We know what each one of these cannabinoids do. We know what a percentage, a certain milligram of this will do combined with a certain percentage of this will do. That's the goal, so that they can ultimately make these products that are on the shelf true to what the label and what the branding will be. And then not only that, true. I got excited with this because this is really the exciting part about this. Ooh, man, this is cool. It's very cool. It gave me a nice little warm feeling. It brought back memories of being able to explain this to people inside of dispensaries and tell them, because you see customers and you see people that have health issues begging for relief and begging for some sort of answer about what can I buy in these shops and stores that's going to help me? What strain's going to work? And you can't give them an answer for that because they have to try that for themselves. They have to run with it for themselves, do the testing and looking into those products themselves and how it reacts with their body. But man, my lips are really dry. I almost bit my lip off there with the butt. But this is a big but. There is an opportunity and there is a chance that we can eventually get to the process someday of breaking down cannabis and everything that's in it and knowing how all that works together and how the makeup of your body is, and put that down in a, for lack of a better term, an edible form, an ingestible form for you and your brain to be able to make up a decision and make smart buying decisions for what exactly you're looking for in cannabis. That's exciting, and that is very cool. A shit ton of science involved with that, and something that happens a lot behind the scenes and we don't get to hear a lot about because a lot of these companies are not going to talk about it. A lot of these things are going to be locked up under trademarks and the information not passed on to one another, and the only thing that's going to make it popular and get that information out there is going to be if a bunch of people figure it out at the same time, and a bunch of people kind of make it so that it is not possible to keep that information quiet. It surprised me how we were talking about the cartridges, how to get a cartridge to work being closer to a full spectrum extract, not having it thick. When you put, even if you put hash oil straight from the machine, straight from the extractor, we kind of skimmed over this a little bit too. When you put hash oil straight from the extractor into a jar, it's an oil form. There's a little bit of butane in there. If you're using propane, a little bit of propane in there. Don't suggest propane. But if you have butane in there, and then that butane off gases, it's processed where there's no butane left in that. The same way that we found out how diamonds were formed. Not them diamonds, baby. We're talking about cannabis diamonds. Yeehaw! Funny enough, there are quite a few there's large diamond mines in Arkansas where the family lives. It's just like, it's such a weird thing to me. It's like Arkansas, of all places, there would be diamond mines. But anyway, the way that we found out how to make hash diamonds, butane hash oil diamonds, the bling bling that you see, thing that everybody wants, and I repeat again, that's just straight THC. If you're buying just straight diamonds, getting kind of ripped off for 90% of the other product that kind of should come with that. The same process that we found to get those is the same exact environment that you use for a cartridge. In order to make diamonds, it's simple. Out of the extractor, hash oil is put into a glass container and left to sit. Well, you'll put a lid on it, pressure. Put a lid on it, give it pressure, even the slightest amount of heat. We're not talking about enough heat to really change too much anyway, just to kind of give the process a kick in the butt and moving a little bit forward. Simply how it's done. So if you were to put hash oil straight from the machine, that's funny how I'm calling it a machine, into one of these carts, very quickly, in fact, because of the volume that it is, so little of volume. And you're going to see this in a lot of cartridges that are, good quality full spectrum cartridges out there and have a good ratio of other cannabinoids and terpenes with it. They'll crystallize, and that crystallization will be the THC. That's going to be your diamonds forming. Bam, baby. You know the secrets now. You know the $1 billion secret. See, that type of stuff was kept behind a closed door for so long. By the way, thanks Al Grande for the follow. I think I missed you there a few minutes ago. That's the type of stuff that a lot of people didn't want to talk about. And that's the type of thing specifically with the solventless cartridges. It's hard to get people to talk about because you can't. That's not the solvent cartridge is different. It's not 1-to-1 with butane hash oil. The same things that you do to make the solventless cartridge work is not gonna be the same things that you use to make the butane hash oil cartridge work. Can you tell we went on like an hour-long tangent of cartridges that I feel very strongly about the quality of cartridges and that you really shouldn't buy cartridges unless it's a last case. I gotta use this type of scenario. Shop workers. We're talking about Arizona, bringing things back around again. Talking about Arizona started recreational sales today. Just randomly dropping it on the good people. Hottest drop of 2021 outside of our immunizations. What up, Big Chris? Hey, Big Chris, the homie in here. He's the one that gave me the heads up on this Arizona story, as I was telling you guys earlier, and pretty cool. Chris, I told you, what did I say yesterday? And then Bike, I told you guys, I thought it would be a month out or so. Volume get back up somehow on this Mamma Jamma? There we go. I thought it would be. See, Chris thought it was going to be around in March. So, Chris, real quick, when this is one of the things that I was asking earlier, or I was thinking about earlier when we had our conversation yesterday. You were telling me that the retail workers were kind of explaining to you where they could open any day, and that's what led me to look into this story more and more. And I was like, holy shit, they're really going to do a random drop. Did it seem to you like the dispensary workers had already known, thinking back on this? Like, do you think they already knew that they were going to open this morning and just couldn't say anything? They had to have, right? Harvest was all set up for it? Yeah. They had to have known. I'm going to make some phone calls tomorrow and call a few places and see if they knew. There's no way they didn't, right? That's just a bonkers thought to think of. And the only thing that sucks about hosting the podcast about cannabis and weed and not having anybody else here to take over the reins for like a minute or whatever, not only is a bathroom break, one, but two is being able to blaze. I know you guys are not going to mind if I take a minute out to blaze, but we got a roll going on here, man. As I pick up my vape pen. Hey, that nicotine. This dang old goddamn pole is a bastard. Back to the story. Meanwhile, dispensaries across the state continue to check their application status with the health department and turn their shops over for recreational sales. Because many dispensary, well, my brain wanted to go 4 different ways. Because a lot of medical dispensaries in Arizona are going to be flipping over to recreational dispensaries, is that whole thing too. A lot of them were already medical in the first place. And that's a complicated process and set of rules in itself right there for dispensaries. The problem is the infrastructure cost for something like that. Dispensaries and the industry and our culture has been proud to bear the burden, but it is time to stop bearing the burden of extra cost because of fear. It's irresponsible. As we talked about earlier, specifically we can point to a physical irresponsible component of all this is the packaging process, the packaging component. How many different things there are, when you go to buy packaging, and how much that just gets thrown away and how much of a waste it is. Now, and it's expensive. That is, in some instances, number one, probably an overinflated cost that's passed on to the consumer and frustrating on that end. But anyway, the shops that you walk into that are split, they have to have separation. So you have medical marijuana people that go to one side or one area, and in some municipalities here in Colorado, some towns, it has to be separated by a wall. It has to have a separate entrance. Specifically, if you have a shop that is 18 to 21 that serves medical cannabis patients, you cannot have the entrance. I think they've changed this a little bit in some areas, but you couldn't have the entrance be the same as a 21 and over recreational shop. You have these red tape rules and bullshit that leads to quite a lot of overhead in the end, and some infrastructure changes that are expensive. It's not the cheapest thing in the world to add a whole nother store to your store. So that's kind of ridiculous. I had said when we first started talking about recreation, and when we passed legalization here in Colorado and we're doing the show back then, I had talked about how recreational or medical cannabis stores and the medical cannabis it was going to go away because of the burdens and the things that we've talked about here for the past few minutes. It's too much of an issue. But then in that process, I didn't fully weigh the value of access to medical patients and how important it would be fine if we just had the access that we have now, period, like to recreational, and then had a little extra special for those medical cannabis patients. But there was a period of time where access to medical and access to people that had been using this system for positive health benefits were in fear of possibly running afoul, not being able to access the system as they had before in a few different ways. Not only were some products and were some of the rules with recreational cannabis not conducive to some medical patients, specifically when we're talking about edibles. Edibles, there's really no limit here in Colorado for milligram for edibles on the medical side of things, but there is a limit on milligrams for the recreational side of things. 100 milligram dosage, 100 milligram dosage for recreational side of things, and then those dosages have to be split up certain ways. It's frustrating. So in that sense, specifically, is one of the biggest things that I can think of. That sense, access to some things being taken away with the erosion of medical cannabis, and some of the things that needed to stay in place for medical cannabis going away. The medical cannabis patients held and still holding on strong to those things, and it hasn't gone away here in Colorado. We still have medical side of things. The same things that we're talking about here in Arizona with the split stores happens here in Colorado, and we've been doing it, for the longest, outside of Cali, but Cali doesn't count. You're talking about regulation and experience with on that side of things. Cali, you sit the fuck down. All right, we can talk about how you have the history and how you the man, all this stuff. You the big one in the shop, but when it comes down to getting things organized and setting an example, a modern example, I'm not. And man, it kind of feels weird ripping on Cali, because without the Cali, we wouldn't be here in a lot of ways. So big respect on that. But god damn it, dropping the ball on the side of regulation and making sure we get things done and moving forward in a positive manner. Cali is one of the sole reasons why their failure in putting through regulation And failure in having something that can be counted on is a big reason why we have not seen the proliferation of recreational cannabis more than we have today. There's been states that have been afraid to stumble into this whole process because of what they've seen from Cali. You know, they ignore what we've done here in Colorado. They ignore what's been done in Washington and in other places. And, you know, even using Washington as an example. That's why it's so important and such a highlight for Arizona today to get this rolled out. November to today, they got it done. That's an incredible, sparking an incredible feat. Just because of what we're talking about right now. Because of how long it's taken for other places, Cali, Oregon, Washington. Washington almost fumbled everything. I mean, they almost ended up with, they did away with the medical program and didn't even have the recreational program put into place. So the rollout of all this has not gone over the best, you know, in all these places. So big kudos to Arizona. And then just Cali, come on, let's set a good example. Do it. Anytime I used to talk about Cali and kind of like smack on them, which we lost a few viewers here already talking about Cali. We were holding strong there. Anytime I mention Cali in a bad way, it's just like I would get a few emails. And if you ever get an email or a complaint like that, you know, like back in the day on radio, if someone used to call in and complain, if like 5-10 people would call in and complain about one thing specific in a short period of time, you knew there was probably an effed up situation there. And quite a few people outside of that, you know, had a concern just the same as those people calling in. They just didn't give a shit enough and weren't bored enough with their life to give a call in. So you start to pay attention to things at that point. Other than that, back to Arizona. Let's quit nailing on Cali. Oh shit. Sarah Shuck of Scottsdale waited in line at Harvest on Friday afternoon and said it was exciting to be able to buy marijuana legally. Got so excited about the openings, I forgot about what the whole expectation of when you open something like this is, the cannabis industry. How many people show up. The flash mob thing we were joking about earlier. How many people showed up after they actually opened the doors? Sarah Shuck in this article 29, super happy she got to buy things. Grew up being told it was a bad thing. It's not such a bad thing now. So now we all get to experience that. She said it's a plant at the end of the day. It's got a lot of medicinal properties and a lot of good positive things it can do for everyone. I think it's a good thing for that the world is accepting that. Said she wasn't surprised by the line, which by 3:30 p.m. wrapped halfway around the former bank building. More people partake in cannabis use than you actually think, she said. It's funny, like, I mean, because it's true that way. But it's funny, like, it's just a funny statement to me. I start to think about all the, like, people that you normally wouldn't think smoked cannabis, that smoke cannabis, and you're like, man, when you spend time, I gotta take a dab, man. When you spend time in a dispensary, that is just absolutely clear, like plainly clear in physical form to you, sitting right in front of you, of how wide varying customers can be and how wide. I don't know, maybe we're just like have a unique makeup of stoners here in Colorado than in regards to other places. Which I don't think we do. You know, I think a stoner is a stoner. But it is funny to see, you know, me standing there and then somebody in a suit and tie standing there, and then, you know, so a nurse in her nurse getup standing there, and then an older lady standing there, you know, that's like in a walker or something. and then, some, country looking dude standing there, and then 3 other people from Florida standing there. Cheers. Dabs. We have like our own breed of Florida stoner here in Colorado. It's like the people from Florida are their own hybrid of person themselves, like the people of Florida. But then the people from Florida that moved here to Colorado, they don't fully shed the Florida, or don't fully shed, their identity from where they came from as much as a lot of other people do when they move here to Colorado. There's just something about Colorado, and it's not necessarily the people, it's the environment. It's just outdoors. It's everything. It's everything nature-wise. It just kind of strips you of not who you are, but it strips you of the environment of where you came from in a way, and that sort of like whatever it is that is palpable. That gets replaced with kind of and especially people moving to Colorado for weed, gets replaced with the Colorado stoner type of thing. The chilled, kind of more laid back, relaxed. You start to develop the Colorado vocabulary. It's quite an interesting thing. I point to Dread Smokes Weed as the perfect example for that, by the way. 100% the perfect example for that. Where do I want to go next with this? How you guys doing in chat? Am I doing all right here? Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's not let's start clicking around here. Hold on. Kind of needed that shock factor there to remind myself that, we were displaying pretty much everything that was on the screen. You just saw a Twitter feed. And then my personal Facebook feed. Where did I want to go next with this? That's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted, right? MarijuanaMoment.net is where you can find all of the greatest up-to-date cannabis news information outside of us discussing it here on the John Doe Radio Show. Our buddy Tom Anhau over at MarijuanaMoment.net did a great job building this fantastic wire, this fantastic service. And if you would like to contribute, if you would like to kind of give back, say thank you to this absolutely successful and invaluable source of information, not only for you and I, but for media outlets far bigger than I, and for people that are informing far more people than I to get information from, accurate and informative information. The former, we may adopt it again, accurate and informative, John Doe Radio. That was our slogan. First marijuana reform bill of the new Congress was introduced this week. It's not the comprehensive legalization legislation that advocates are waiting for, but it would reschedule cannabis under federal law. Representative Greg Steube, is that how you say his name, from Florida, Republican, filed the proposal. He's a Republican, people. Filed the proposal, which is identical to a measure he sponsored last session. It would simply move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act. Text of the legislation, which has not been posted on Congress's website yet, but shared with the Marijuana Moment staff, states that Attorney General of the United States shall, by order, not later than 60 days after the date of this enactment of this section, transfer marijuana from Schedule 1 of such act to Schedule 3 of such act. When the congressman introduced the bill in 2019, he said the state-level legalization movement necessitates... Dude, when I ran into that word, I'm not even... You know how, like, when you're reading, you look ahead and you're like, you know, your brain reads the word and it's like, literally, my brain was like, I got this word. We're not going to stumble. No problem. I had that split moment thought right before I slammed headfirst into necessitated. What a douche. Necessitated a policy change that would free up research into cannabis. As marijuana is legalized for medical and recreational use across the United States, it is important that we study the effects of the substance and the potential impacts it can have on various populations, he said at the time. By rescheduling marijuana from a Schedule 1 controlled substance to a Schedule 3 controlled substance, the opportunities for research and study are drastically expanded. But while rescheduling is backed by Biden, who remains opposed to adult use legalization, it's not the reform that advocates are getting behind. There are high hopes that more comprehensive completely remove. Yeah, that's maybe a typo. Something more comprehensive completely remove marijuana from the CSA, while promoting social equity will move through the 117th Congress. By the way, I've argued this before. Which because I've argued it before, I think is a valid statement to make and something valid to think about in this process. I did mention Representative Greg here at the beginning. He's a Republican from Florida. I don't put it past the Republicans, conservatives, or some people in some manner to five-head it, like 1,000% it, and because they know legalization is coming. Some sort of heavy reform on a federal level is coming. And because they feel like they have no control over it, this is the control that they're going to push. The lowest denominator, the least possible that they can allow us to get away with, is what they're going to put forward. It's absolutely is one of the most frustrating things to deal with in politics, because not only does that, if that situation gets through, it's a frustrating thing, but to go back and fix that situation is, in a lot of cases, almost impossible. Even though here in America, we can change those type of things, but the hurdle to be able to change and the time that has to pass, or the rules that are in place, like a lot of these situations have like sunset clauses, or where it's like they have to be the rules have to be reviewed after a certain period of time. It's hard to get those rules changed during that time in some places. Luckily here in Colorado it wasn't necessarily that way, but it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, man, I need a producer, I need a producer, Chris. I really do, man. I wish I could hire you and pay. You got a job. You're doing well. You're doing fantastic. So is out of the question. This is what we need, man. This is why I was honking at Grambo last night. I need somebody that we can get a producer as. I have some ideas. I have some really cool ideas. Because then I brain fart. I look over here trying to line up the next thing. And then... I swear to God, it hasn't happened as much as it has the past 2 days in like the past year. Anyway, there's nothing that any of you that are not directly involved with that give a shit about. You're just like, God, this is a true stoner. I feel at home here. So anyway, getting that shoehorn into the mix, so to speak, as what Republicans would try to do and kind of like sabotage this process, is it's definitely something that is on their horizon. See, Kevin Sabat, who is this just pain in the ass dude. I'm not gonna talk too much about him because he's a thorn in the side of legalization and a drug reform movement as a whole, just moving forward. This guy, he's got the whole, like mothers against marijuana type of standpoint, and basically he would be this type of dude that would introduce this lowest denominator possible. He's been cheering for decriminalization because of that idea that we've been talking about here the past minute or so about going to the lowest denominator, the lowest form possible of what we can allow these people to get away with, and then running with that as kind of the latest way to fight the drug war. Back to this article on the legislation introduced on a federal level. Rescheduling backed by President Biden, who remains opposed to adult legalization, not the reform we were asking for. A bill to accomplish that cleared the U.S. House of Representatives last year, but died in the GOP-controlled Senate. Now that Democrats have control of both chambers, activists are waiting for the legislation to be taken back up with a better chance of making it to Biden's desk. That bill, the Marijuana Opportunity, Reinvestment, and Expungement Act, MORE Act, was sponsored by now Vice President Kamala Harris, though she's indicated that she would not necessarily push the president to adopt the pro-legalization position. And then, as we were talking about the first and second day of the show, just because the president is, not necessarily pro-legalization and is more of a, reschedule, decriminalization type of standpoint, Kamala Harris being vice president, her having this bill, being introduced before was in the back of my mind. And then not only also her being involved in the mix, but the other people that we've seen get added to the cabinet so far that have been positive with, pro-legalization. I think that from what we're seeing so far with Biden, and even with his inauguration, having an all-inclusive process, having an all-inclusive time is what they're heavily focused on. And I think that's a pretty awesome thing, something that we may be not familiar with over the past 4 years. And it feels pretty good. It feels like, a nice change and getting back onto track. But, with that process of people being open about, being open about people includes the openness about people's, way that they experience thoughts and the way that they get away and the way that they get high and, free will. Free will is a great thing, man. So I think with those people being in the cabinet and that kind of moving forward more and more in this administration especially, it's going to be hard to avoid legalization. It's just plain and simple. And that's, like we're talking about, this Republican from Florida that introduced this bill, Kevin Sabat, who, is on the same trip that this bill would be on, to kind of cut the legs out from what we're trying to do with legalization. That is the frustrating and that is the scary thing to look out for. The one thing that I've talked about with legalization upcoming for years now has not been that it wouldn't happen. It's been, what will it look like when it does happen? Are we going to be seeing limited and very strict rules like we do in some states, limited THC percentage? We're not going to see homegrown, unfortunately. I think it's obviously something that we want to fight for, and it's something that we want to have on the table, bargaining chip at the very least. If we could have homegrown, that would be awesome. But I think that's, and it is, I'm not saying we shouldn't expect it or we shouldn't deserve it is the word I should use, that we don't deserve it, but we shouldn't expect it. And it's something that as we look down a pipeline that's going to be that's what we're working towards. Will we ever get there? At the sense that a lot of people want us to be with home growing, where I would like us to be with home growing? Probably not. You know, because it's just not that way with anything else that there is. You might be able to have certain permits or whatever in certain municipalities to do things, say like, you know, producing alcohol. I think here in Colorado you can like have 2 barrels of you can produce 2. I forget what the exact amount is of it, but you can have a certain amount of alcohol. Brewing your own beer, there's a limit in some areas of how much you can actually brew of that, and even if there isn't a limit, you still can't sell it. You know, yeah, Zix, I can brew my own beer. Yeah, a lot of people can brew their own beer, and even in South Africa, for instance, I just learned of this. South Africa has a super big problem with like drunk driving, I guess. Excuse me. I don't want to create a problem that doesn't actually exist, but there's weird regulations. That's neither here nor there. There's weird frog in my throat. Weird regulations that have been put into place all over the nation because of coronavirus and wanting to avoid, you know, crowds or whatever. One of the things was they banned alcohol sales in South Africa for like a period of time because of Corona. It's such a weird situation. It's like the same thing here in Colorado or in other places where they, you know, you had to close shop and it wasn't a necessity to have that shop open. It was kind of like that pretty much in South Africa. But the like alcohol rules vary from place to place, and all kind of rules vary from place to place. I mean, you can't set up, you know, I can't set up a hamburger drive-through in my front yard and just have that work. It's not possible. You know, I can invite everybody from the neighborhood over, or whoever, you know, and throw a party and do that kind of way, you know. It's all in the spirit of how you're doing things sometimes. So I don't think we'll ever see a situation where you're going to be able to grow just copious amounts of plants and get away with that. But, I mean, you can put a cannabis plant inside of a massive planter. A planter could cover your whole floor. Is that one plant, and then kind of, you know, stylize, train is maybe the word I'm looking for. Train your plant, you know, with netting and whatever else, and get that mamma jamma to trellis out and vine over the whole entire room, and you got one plant there. Now it's just one plant under the law. Now, when it comes down to how much you're actually allowed to possess legally from a harvest, that may change from place to place. In Colorado, you can possess however much you've harvested, but you can only bring an ounce outside with you, and then you can't sell it. Oregon, I think you can possess like 5 million pounds or something like that. Something ridiculous. But anyway, long story short, we're not going to be there. I don't think it's going to take my ultimate. What I'm trying to say to you in that whole process and the long-winded explanation of that is that temper your expectation in this. You know, a lot of people get super pissed, or not so much anymore, but would get super pissed off on one side or the other of legalization argument. Like, all or nothing. We got to have home grows or nothing. It's this or that. And, you know, one of the reasons why legalization didn't pass in California as quickly as it did and failed a couple times. That idea of how it should be done and the tempered expectations, it's important. It's important. You don't want to get in the way of progress by expecting something more than what we're actually going to be getting, and not understand the whole process of the politics. It's another thing that a lot of cannabis people don't really understand who are kind of coming into this whole thing, politics, trying to get into reform, get their opinion, just be involved as an activist in this whole thing, because they're not necessarily connected. Most stoners I know are not, super political junkies or wonks. It's inherently in a stoner's makeup to not be fully connected into that type of shit and not poison yourself with that type of crap that can come with it. But some of us, enjoy that whole process and, do the sacrificial cleanse, the weed toke. And in them coming into that and being surprised, they have kind of a misunderstanding or over expectations of how the process works, and not exactly getting what they expected out of the process because, they're not experienced with how it works. But it's cool because this legalization bringing more and more of those people into the mix and finding that it's not that hard sometimes to get laws changed. And it's all you got to kind of do sometimes, put in the footwork and even just show up. In the best cases, which is a lot of cases, even in small, city council meetings. If you live in a small town, going to your city council meeting, county commissioner meeting, trust me, you're going to get shit changed if you just get up and speak. While moving marijuana to Schedule 3 under Stubbe's new bill, this is the bill we're talking about that would that would not end like the MORE Act would. It would still have a number of effect. Hold on here. I'm taking a deep breath here and take a drink. We're building up the stamina for the long runs in the show. To be able to talk very well for extended periods of time. It would, for example, protect federal employees who use marijuana from a Reagan-era executive order that defines illegal drugs as a Schedule 1 or 2 substance. See, that's another underhanded type of... Okay, we understand that there might be some things that affect people negatively with cannabis, but, we're not giving up on the drug war, man, and throwing people in prison is the... Why is the guy a stoner? He needs to be a business suit guy. Well, we got to get our shit together here with numerous things, and the impressions is one of them. This just ain't cutting it. It ain't it, John Doe. Jesus Christ. Undercut everything. Back to the article. While moving marijuana Schedule 3 under Stubbe's new bill would not end federal prohibition any more than the MORE Act would. It would, for example, protect federal. We already read that. Only drugs under Schedule 1 and 2 are affected by the tax provisions known as 280E that blocks cannabis companies from deducting business expenses from their taxes. That's basically that RICO Act provision. And then also the combined crimes provision that it states that even if you're committing an illegal activity, like, the mafia was, if you're a racket, or if you're a cannabis grow, because they're the same things in the mind of this law, and the wordings of this law, you still have to claim the taxes on that. So you have to admit what you're doing and then pay the taxes on that. That's how they got the gangsters, man. So that law, that's one of the big laws that would help being changed federally for, small businesses. You can't take deductions from these, from like a normal business would. So, you benefits and deductions and things like that help eliminate your tax percentage and the overhead that you have. Cannabis facilities can't do that on the federal level. Still have to claim it. Still have to follow the rules of this whole process and tell the federal government that, yes, I am breaking the law in this way. Here is a detailed... words are just escaping. Okay, here is a detailed the word that, accountants have for bookkeeping and ledger. Here's the ledger for my illegal business. Please don't hurt me. I mean, that's kind of where we're at. But you can't fudge that, and you can't take deductions from that, and it has to be on the up and up, because what if they wanted to smack you? The taxes would be probably the easiest way that the federal government could come in and take care of this situation. And just start harassing companies and putting the pressure on companies, making it difficult. Reclassification would also, and then not only that, making it difficult, but shutting them down and having federal agents come in and raid and take your store for tax purposes. Like, you open a cannabis store and the feds come and take it away and raid it, and you're raided by the IRS. Like, that's like the shittiest way to go of ways to go that way. Like, oh man, why you gotta do me like that? You could. Never. Sometimes the images in my brain and the thoughts that I have inside my brain are far more exciting than what I can describe to you guys. Really, when it comes down to it. I hope you get the point. Reclassification would also make scientific research easier, since cannabis's current Schedule 1 status creates additional hurdles for studies. New Twitch, who dis? Cultivated Choice, what up? Moving cannabis out of Schedule 1 would additionally end threats of the U.S. Postal Service that publishers have faced over mailing of newspapers containing marijuana advertisements. Since a federal statute the agency has cited to justify its actions applies only to Schedule 1 substances. Wait, what? My brain did not write that whole paragraph. It's illegal to send. It's illegal to send cannabis information and pro-cannabis stuff through the federal mail. Yeah. Yep. Something that's not really known. It's not really used, or that popular to be talked about, because it hasn't been used that much. Threats made, I think, at the beginning of Trump's horrendous 4 years. I apologize. I shouldn't get too political here. Even if you're a Republican, we got to meet on the same page of moving forward with the good times. God, dude, maybe we need to cut the show at 2 hours and start losing my mind here. Even at the best, let's just put it this way. Even at the best of Republicans, or even the worst at times, I can still understand, and I can still get on the same page, and I can still not bash your way of thinking, unless you're trying to prevent another human being from living a full and happy life, which includes healthcare, in my opinion. I don't choose sides. I'm in that sense. I don't hate you because you're a Republican. I don't hate you because you're a Democrat. That's not how it works. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I used to consider myself a libertarian. I don't even consider myself a libertarian anymore. I think that those labels are for the normal person, for anyone else other than a Republican, Democrat, a person that's sitting there on the Hill every day, lawmaker that is elected by us. That jargon and that label doesn't really apply to us. We're human beings on the spectrum of thought and feeling, and to put that cornerstone label and to be a part of that cult that has led us down to this two-party system, picking the least worst of the two. That's how we've got here. And it would be nice to unlock some more options and some more ideas moving forward, rather than just, having polarized sides of Republican and Democrat. It just sucks. Why it would have been so great to have, Bernie get into the mix. People talk about, well, what about our money and all this other stuff? And I get that. It's a valid argument to make. I get all this stuff, but what are we trying to do here? We're trying to move the pendulum overall. We're trying to still worry about the things that are sitting in our pockets. We can be happy with the shit that is in our pockets and say, okay, I'm fine with voting against my interests and a future getting better because it's okay right now. Or you can say, fuck it. There's a chance things might change. There's a chance that things moving forward are going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but things ain't great right now. I'm not enjoying where we're sitting. Got to get up and move. That type of shit might have to happen sometime. And, I thought in a way that Obama might be that administration that could help move that forward a little bit more, but that was lacking. Fortunately, we didn't end up with that as much as we would like to see. Partially to blame on both sides, Republican blocking things, and then whatever. We won't get into that. But it's like you have to, just like anxiety, just like depression, that first step is always the worst. Second step can be a doozy sometimes, a little trip you up, kind of shit, smack you in the face, come in, play, but at least you took the first step, and at least when you're moving forward, you stumble, you fall forward, there's something happening, At least if you stumble forward and land on your face, break all your teeth out, you moved forward. That's the argument that someone anti to all this and scared of this would make. Reason why we shouldn't do it. But it is important that we do take those steps forward. Modest rescheduling alone would not remove federal criminal penalties. Advocates have also expressed concerns that any move other than a complete removal from the CSA could create additional regulatory roadblocks for cannabis businesses that are operating in compliance with state laws. That's absolutely, most definitely the factual, actual Jack. That's the facts, Jack. Quickly about that. The reason why, if you move it to from Schedule 1 to a Schedule 2, and why this is kind of important from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 in this, and this is a good thing. I'm not saying this is a bad thing overall here, because Schedule 1, we already have a system set up in states like Colorado to promote the legalization of marijuana and sales and storefronts, etc. There's no real federal precedent set for a Schedule 1 substance other than that you can't sell it, you shouldn't have it, period, end of story. With the Schedule 2 substances and moving down, that authority falls under the FDA. So dispensaries do not hold pharmacy licenses. And so moving cannabis into a Schedule 2 would put that under our pharmaceutical license type of situation, and that doesn't exist. And oh my God, I don't even want to know how far backwards in momentum we would move if that were to happen. If it were to get put into a Schedule 2, it would be one of the worst, quote unquote, movements forward that we could possibly have in cannabis reform. Because who knows? I mean, who knows what would happen at that point? I mean, that's, at least with other things, we know how to fight it. But because there is such a strong precedent and such a strong laws surrounding, pharmacies and that whole process, you would have to. I mean, it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. Period. What are we at here? Holy shit! 2 hours. What else can we talk about here? Let's do this story because I've had this on since the beginning of the week. Go over a few stories here and then snap out and either play some Rust or some Hitman. I was getting some... Man, I was fiending to play the Hitman earlier. By earlier, I mean at like 6 o'clock this morning when my body was holding on to its last threads of giving up hope of staying awake. Not alive. Man. It's like I gotta get in. My body has to be like in emergency shutdown mode. It's like the dude sitting in front of the sleep button is just an asshole. I mean, for a lot of people, he's probably an asshole. But, you know, he's sitting there like this with the headphones on. He's just sitting there rocking his head back and forth. And, you know, Joe's next to him, just poking him. God damn it. Like, dude, hit the button. Son of a bitch, hit the sleep button. We're all suffering here. This dude's gonna go crazy. He's gotta sleep. And then Joe's just, he's a dick. He's just sitting there like bobbing his head. He don't give a shit. Nope. And then eventually everybody just falls over. I don't know how that was going to end. You need to smoke a joint and you'll understand a little bit more, okay? Don't look at the time, just keep talking. Yeah, no, I know. My bladder is reminding me what time it is. Actually, you know what? Let me take a quick bathroom break real quick, refill the water, and take a dab, and then we'll go over a couple more stories and hang out for a little bit longer. All right. Thanks for hanging out with me on the John Doe Radio Show. By the way, right under the player, the video tab that you're watching on Twitch right now, I added the Discord for John Doe Radio. Just a place that if you'd like to talk with me, I don't really work with the email thing that much, and especially like communicating with listeners or people that would like information. It's just like, it's such a shitty way. I never even liked it 10, 15 years ago. Much less today when we have things like Discord, you know, where you can hop in voice channel, talk with people. You can sit there, have live chat. So I love that. Also, Get Seeds right here. My man Bike in the chat room. He's dropped a link a few times for a website. He'll also drop a link if he wants. Pretty much everybody in here is probably from that Discord anyway, so far. But you can be a part of that Discord. We will have some seed giveaways from the man himself, Bike, here in the near future. So stay with us. I'll be right back. Wait, that's not the one I need to turn up. This. Gotta get a digital mixer. That's what's gotta happen. Digital mixer. Be right back. It's the John Doe. All right. Let's get back into it. It's funny, man. Comfort is very important to me. Comfort, I think, to a lot of people is super important, obviously, for, many comfortable reasons. But I think sometimes I can take it to like the extreme level where it's like obsessive compulsive. I don't know, there's an ADHD aspect of it that is absolutely just the biggest pain in the ass to have to deal with. Anybody watching there on the camera before we came back to voice is like, imagine your dog trying to get comfortable in his spot, just kind of like circling around multiple times. He's like sits down once, lays down. Oh, nope, that's not going to do it. Stands up. A few more turns. Nope. Didn't get quite the angle on the kitchen that I wanted right here. Let's flip around a couple more times. And there we go. It's like that with me. Oh, God. You can tell when I'm uncomfortable with something. You can tell when I'm unhappy with something. I.e., complaining about my performance on the John Doe Radio Show. All right, where were we? Get back to this. I need one of those fancy Elgatos that all the heavy streamers got, man. They got these cool little buttons. I could just hit this button, blip, right there. We go back to the page where we were reading the news articles, and bloop, right here. We go back to the talk screen, bloop, right here. We go to a cool little scene with a meme on it. You ever just get a huge wave of existential dread when you shouldn't? You're just like, man, where the did you just come here? No, I'm the only one. All right, cool. Like so many things about 2020, cannabis sales in Colorado were outrageous. People spent more than $2 billion on products. That's more money than they ever have before. By the way, this article from CPR.org. The total continues the industry's upward trajectory and breaks the previous record set just the year before in 2019. We definitely saw a huge uptick in sales in March when we really had all the public health orders go into effect, said Brooks Lustig, co-founder of Seed & Smith, a Denver-based marijuana cultivator, concentrate manufacturer, and dispensary. Before the pandemic, Lustig's company offered behind-the-scenes tours like a brewery, but for cannabis, which meant most of the customers were tourists. When the pandemic forced people to stop traveling, he saw their absence made up by locals shopping. At the dispensary. The boost in spending on cannabis, Lustig says, was a result of people being stuck at home and eager to relieve stress and anxiety. They wanted to try something new or different, he said. They were interested in getting a little bit of a buzz or whatever it may be. I mean, there's a lot to say. There's a lot in that, what he just said. It was kind of strange at the beginning of all this when businesses were ordered closed, and it was like essential businesses were the only ones that were allowed to stay open. Just from my knowledge in how regulation works and in the past, what has happened when you have closed or cut off places of joy or places of, I guess, the better word for this would be places that are a vice in times of need or in times of despair. It doesn't go over very well, and I knew dispensaries, especially medical marijuana dispensaries. There was a chance recreational dispensaries I thought might be closed when all this stuff came through. The businesses were closed, but and then medical dispensaries, obviously, it's written in the Constitution that has to be available, and even wait, actually, some of them. Never mind, that would be different because the rules for medical marijuana, some of the rules were split into a separate bill regulating. Yeah, that's so frustrating. So what I'm thinking process in there was Colorado both our recreational cannabis and medical cannabis laws are written into our Constitution. There's a constitutional right to have access to medical and recreational cannabis in the state of Colorado. It's how our whole system works. Our Constitution, the way that laws are made, etc. Laws initiated by the people generally fall under, or I guess you shouldn't say laws initiated by the people. That is true, but initiatives initiated by the people generally fall under our state constitution, generally fall under a very heavily protected status. And over the years, there's so many, and it got kind of weakened this year too. There's so many organizations and so many companies that have kind of come in and tried to underhand that quite a bit and try and take away the power that these rules that we've had in place for forever hold. Turn on this music a little bit. All right. I think this may be two different levels than it was set earlier. It'll give me an idea when I go back and listen. Back to the podcast and get some levels. I changed the voice level up a little bit too on both the volume and on the actual equalizer type stuff. So I tried to take out some of the high end so that when I talked, it didn't get kind of a slice at times when those S's or those hit. That was bugging the shit out of me when I was listening back. By the way, if you guys do have any questions in the chat, just feel free to drop them in. I know I've been kind of slow to react to a few people who have asked something, and I'm sure a few of you are just kind of listening in the background, like radio, which is absolutely perfectly fine. I'm not saying you guys have to come out of hiding and chat by any means. Do give a follow so that it helps the numbers out here for JDR mainly. And then 2, it'll give you a notification when we're going to go live. Or you can just follow the JDR Twitter, which was, right below the screen on Twitch. Our Twitter and the Discord are attached there. And you can holler at me there. If you got any questions, anything I've said in the show bugs you, feedback you want, something you want to hear more, let me know. It's not just going to be me reading news here. We've already got a few invitations out to interview some people and have some discussions. I thought it might be cool to get a few friends in here first, and while I get my training wheels kicked off again, back into the swing of things, sounding like a professional, fully functional broadcaster, and putting together full thoughts and sentences, not just trying to think of what we're saying next, get back into the smooth flow of 107.9 JDR, kicking it to you live. Cheesy. But yeah, we'll grow. I'm very excited. I don't want basically what I'm saying is that we have plans, and I would like to do as much as we possibly can with things on here. I already have this idea of how we can add another producer through Discord and have it no different than if there was a person sitting right over there with a computer and full controls and all that shit. Everything sitting in front of them. And we could do that with a whole team of people if we want to. So it's cool. This is exciting. So exciting. Hire producer from Upwork or Guru. Yeah, I mean, that's an idea. Grambo should be able to take care of this. Shouldn't have any issue with Grambo. The only thing with Grambo that I'm concerned about, which is not going to be a concern, I think, once we snap into things, is dedication to the plan. Which goes for anything if you're not getting paid, people. Come on. You didn't get paid for something? Shit, you gonna act like it's your job? This ain't your dream? Shit. I ain't working for the man. I work 10 hours a day, making money for other people, and you're paying me $8 an hour. Don't even give me treats at the end of the day. Back to the sales story in Colorado. Dude, I'm telling you right now, though, I do not know if we can go with the... I don't know if we can go with the synthwave for 2 hours. Even an hour. I love it, but say this song, for instance, right here. God, I can't wait to get all these controls set up on a new... I want to have a digital board where we go out from everything. Like all the audio goes out into a digital board and then back into the computer. That way I can hear myself, and then that way I can just reach over and dial the pots. And while I'm dialing a pot, I can do shiz over here and actually function properly like a real producer. It's driving you nuts. It's too much. Yeah, it's yeah, that listening back to JDR and then listening back to the show the past 2 days, besides all the other things, like the one thing, the production standpoint, the producer in me, the creative dude in me, you know, I started, as I mentioned before, started in actual radio, and my specialty in actual radio, broadcast radio, was production, was creating these little liners. You know what? I got this shit right here. Oh, it's cool too. We can have the second screen up, and then man, I just got to be sure we don't bring up that porn tab link going on. You know what I'm saying? This freaking pandemic is lonely. You don't want to be looking at the hours watched on the Pornhub, you know, and other places, because, you know, you might be a little bit disappointed or impressed. One of the two. You know what? Let's finish this article, and then we'll go to this, and then I'm gonna cut her out for the evening. The more people that we get in here, and the more feedback. Here's one of the things that I was just thinking about too. Besides the beds and stuff, getting that, finishing that thought, the beds and the production and all these things, once that gets comfortable and feels more comfortable for me, it's going to feel 10 times more comfortable for you guys. You know, I mean, if it's uncomfortable enough for me to delay, you know, like my speech, and for me to, you know, be looking around here, and like not, for me to not be able to focus on talking and then using my hands and eyes to look at multiple things and do like an actual producer, you know, creating the imaging of a station and then also producing, sitting at a board, you know, being on air was also something that I did, but it just that the access wasn't there for that side of things. You know, putting together the whole thing was what I also loved doing, had a passion for. Didn't feel like I was at work a single second during any of this time I spent. doing that type of stuff. But so if it's like uncomfortable for me to focus on, and I'm like stumbling over that, then it's got to be an uncomfortable product, sometimes to be a part of. So Zix, I know, comfortable over here. Most people, yes, it is that way. It is, me particularly overly worrisome sometimes, complain about things that don't necessarily need to be complained about or aren't an issue. And that's good sometimes in a constructive, positive manner. We want to, always be moving forward on stuff, but derail. That's what we don't want to do. So, if I cannot be thinking about these things, then we won't be talking about them. But like pulling all that stuff together, getting all that in place, and then the beds, a nice comfortable list. I'm kind of like testing out because I'm new to synthwave. It's not something that I've been listening to for a long time. I just kind of got introduced into my mix, very recently. So as I become more and more comfortable with the music and selections that we're allowed to play here on Twitch, and a list of songs built into this program right here, rather than just, kind of playing them from a random list, which, this Mega Drive, the best of Mega Drive list, or just Google Play is what I use. It's not Google Play anymore. It's now YouTube Music. Or any of the other streaming places. Like that's not particularly how I want to do things. I want to run things like a radio show production, with visuals added into it. So it'll be cool. It'll be cool. It's not far off from being some shiny and nice. So I'm already comfortable with having video and a 720p quality of video, and we could do way better. It's my S7 Samsung phone that you're watching us through right now. The battery is shit on it. It's plugged USB to the computer and doesn't charge for shit. So at any given time, this mamma jamma could cut out. You could be left with no visual John Doe here, and God forbid that. There will be days that we won't have the cam here. That's for sure. Because why do you need to look at me? Like why? Is it just because it's like we're sitting here side by side and without an actual face or a person sitting here that it doesn't seem like we're sitting side by side anymore? I get that. I'm on board with that. I can understand that. But people on the outside are a lot more comfortable sometimes with shiz than you as a person would be with yourself, Not that I could like fart into the mic and you have to be comfortable with that, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're wearing pajamas, chilling, or if I flip the camera around, and pointed it towards the bed and just kind of like just chatted it out, laid across the bed, pulled my leg up a little bit, did some sit-ups for subs. Wait, am I breaking toss here? Slow down. Wait, there's video? There's video? You're on Twitch. Of course there's video. Wait, you can't see me, right? God damn it, Zix. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. You ain't gonna fool me again. Increased sales weren't just in recreational sector, by the way, here in Colorado. Medical, as I had spoken about a little bit, medical marijuana sales still continuing on, not necessarily at the same pace that they had before. And we'll talk about this, and this will come up in stories and in conversations when we're talking about other states and recreational blah 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 versus versus medical access. There are places, medical stores here in Colorado that have had little to no stock of actual cannabis flower available to them. And I'm gonna sneeze here. Hold on. Give me a second. Legitimately haven't had any flour to sell because there hasn't been any flour available in the system for them to buy. Um, so that goes hand in hand with what I was discussing with you a little bit about earlier when it comes down to a demand of patients to have access to quality products and have a system set up for them that includes all inclusive, the same that a recreational system would be, but also some added benefits of that, you know, um, whether it be, something just as simple as having special service, um, a oh, and then and then we're forgetting the absolute main point of all of this cannabis versus recreational and access, patients or whatever is also the tax. There's no there's no tax on the medical side as there is on the recreational side. Um, so that's another important aspect of that. So if patients can't buy something because there's no product there, companies aren't producing the product because it's just not worth it. They're not making money on the medical side. It is far more. You have so many more people that you can sell to, and a far wider range of options when you unlock the recreational side of things. When you gain the recreational achievement storefront of Weed Shop Simulator, I can't wait for it. Weed Shop 3 is coming. We're definitely playing that here on the channel. When you unlock that, there's a lot more money and a lot more progress that's going to come with that. I mean, medical marijuana sales, no matter, even if I said earlier that I've said this before, and I said even if I said this is the beginning of recreational, that medical was going to get taken out eventually, I still firmly believe in that. Didn't happen as quickly as I thought it would, but it is eventually going to happen. It is far too much of an expensive system to run individually, having two pillars and two separate laws, two separate regulatory systems that it's just not going to work. And companies are going to give up on it. Two things are going to happen. Companies are going to give up on it, and the war of attrition with medical patients is going to kind of happen. There's always going to be those diehards, and I'm not saying anything bad about medical patients here or whatever. Just looking at facts of how things are going to happen. There'll be a certain number of people that will fall off. It just won't be as demanded as it was before. And then, as I said before, companies not going to be happy with the status quo, what's sitting in their pocket, and they're going to take that step forward and say, fuck it, we need this change. There's going to be some things that not like about it, and we just got to do this. And yeah. So the question for 2021 is whether those trends will continue as far as sales. Colorado, the biggest sales year yet. Mentioned before, you can't close down the vice for people. People are going to want to have access to alcohol. People are going to want to have access to marijuana if they've already got access to it. Yeah, it's important. You're going to create more problems, bigger issues, restricting that. One thing that alcohol, one of the reasons why recreational stores were allowed to stay open is one of the worst things about alcohol and alcohol stores is that if you were to close at any point in time, liquor stores, you are going to have a raise in deaths. People are going to die because those stores are not open, because they do not have access to alcohol, because they are addicted to alcohol. Because the withdrawal symptoms from alcohol are fatal in some instances. You cannot shut down liquor stores. It is an essential business in that sense, specifically 100%. The reason why you cannot shut them down. And that precedent, even though it doesn't carry over to cannabis, I looked over at the chat at the wrong time. I always said you're an idiot. You're always... just going to get harassed by chat continuously. I see it here. This chat's going to be like slowly rolling, and then at times we might get popular, and then it's going to be like, XQC chat, and I'm just going to see, you domer, you idiot, you're a moron, shut the fuck up. No, we're not going to allow that. Regarding MMJ ending, okay, garbage and garbage. You always used to say that. I always said you're an idiot regarding MMJ ending. No, I understand. And that's why I tried to cover pretty extensively the view on that, of why it hasn't happened or why it may not happen in some people's opinions. I don't... There's not a... I guess you could argue that there, at some point, could become, as we get more into medical research and having the things like I talk about at the beginning of the show, these labs learn more about, and science learn more about how cannabis and the cannabinoids and terpenes affect the body. As we move more forward on that and develop more reasons for people to go to a dispensary and buy a specific product, I can see that, a sort of a revival, a renaissance of, so to speak, of medical marijuana stores. But the only reason I could say that would happen is if it was artificially placed in the medical side of things for some reason, and by artificially, I mean as if it was forced on that side and not allowed to be a part of recreational side, which wouldn't happen. The recreational side would, take that and run with it, and it still probably would overwhelmingly be the choice of people to buy cannabis from, would be these recreational stores for those medical products, even, unless these medical stores were to, convert in some sort of way or change a business model or whatnot. I don't know. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe it'll always be that grassroots type of access to medical patients that they do deserve. I'm not saying medical patients don't deserve it. Some of the things we talk about here may involve the idea of what I think will be facts, not what I think my personal opinion is or how I exactly feel about the way it should go, but analyzing exactly how it's probably going to go out, despite how I feel or despite how you feel. Which is awesome because we get to have that discussion. Alex Levine, I know that dude. Co-founder of the Green Dragon dispensary chain, disagrees. He thinks it's unlikely people in the state will keep buying like this as far as the trends in 2021 as they continue. Some of what you're seeing in this is artificially high numbers from panic buying, he said. For Levine, the most exciting thing that happened in the industry in 2020 wasn't the sales at all. It's the decision early in the pandemic to keep dispensaries open through shutdowns. In Denver, the mayor's stay-at-home order originally would have closed marijuana retailers, but when long lines of panic buyers formed outside businesses, the city quickly reversed course. I mean, legit, like the second that they announced that they were going to be closing dispensaries. Yeah. Yeah, people started leaving work to head to this dispensary. Started leaving home to head to the dispensary and stand in long lines. The pandemic. And then you could buy what? An ounce? It was like an ounce going to do. I mean, you risk getting COVID over. Yeah, probably. Okay, I will probably do that. Not gonna lie. That's the only place. That's literally legit the only. I don't even really go inside the store, the grocery store anymore. The only place I step foot into is the dispensary. So if I get the Rona at any point in time, there's no ifs, ands, or doubts. It's like it came from weed shop. Yep. That's all we going. That's all we've been to. The cannabis industry being deemed an essential isn't something that was just like trivial or good for business. It really was actually politically important. Levine says it's a major milestone for the cannabis movement. This thing goes from something that politicians won't even discuss to now it has to be debated, he said. The status of the cannabis industry in general has been elevated. Well, yeah, and that reaction is a reaction of all the is a result of all the hard work and a result of all time of trying to reform laws and the drug war, everything combined into that we've fought for to this point. That's where we're at. Duh. I mean, that's kind of an obvious. Yeah, I don't know. How do I explain my thoughts on that? I don't know. Did I explain it well enough? Probably. I mean, it wasn't really a political thing here in Colorado. I guess it's different. Maybe I take things for granted because we don't really think there's no really second thoughts about some things cannabis here in Colorado. Like it's an included thing that very rarely outside of the major fights, is an issue anymore. We still have, some of those lingering effects of the drug war, when it comes down to it, like, for instance, King Soopers, Kroger, if they know you work at a cannabis company, not going to cash your checks. Stuff like that, silly things. Banks, other places that have had their hands tied by the federal government regulations, if because they have records and because there's, a video or a tape trail of records, digital, paper, whatever it may be. They just can't include that into the mix because if the feds or someone else were to come in later and look at all that stuff, it's all literally just recorded in time, sitting out in front of them to be able to run with and infer their own way. So I can understand how they wouldn't want to take on, some of that burden. All right, let's wind down the show here. So when I worked in radio, what is this synthwave? I'm afraid to play anything from here. I still haven't gone through all this. If it can be caught by the DMCA bots. Yeah, there we go, right there. What the fuck? Why is it playing over my actual speakers? That's another interesting. That's weird. You gotta love electronics and all that stuff that goes with it because, two sources playing at the same time, like in my headphones and through the speakers, technically isn't possible. I mean, it's possible, obviously, but, the way that these things are programmed and set up shouldn't work that way. Should not work that way. You know what? It's probably under the options here. On air output. Oh, that's probably on air. Let's set that to this one. Headphones. Okay. All right, there we go. That makes sense. Okay, through a program like this would be the option, and the only reason why you would be able to do that. That's not factory settings. All right, I don't know if that's DMCA-able. Stuff like this.
It's the John Doe Radio Show. How much higher can you get?
Well, what the president said
That was my
campaign,
specialty.
you'll be surprised to know we'll be-
How did this get back in here? Go away.
The John Doe Radio Show. Yeah! The Stash.
Hey man, how does this thing work? Product review.
How much higher can you get?
The John Doe Radio Show. Live.
How much higher can you get?
The John Doe Radio Show.
Accurate and informative. John Doe Radio.
Anyway, stuff like that.
The Stash.
I enjoy doing that stuff. It's fun. When you get done creating stuff like that, it's rewarding. You step away and you're like, man, I got an actual, you sat down at the computer, you were creative. Yeah, it's probably the same feeling it is the exact same feeling, in fact, that as a glass blower, former, I could still do it. I could still hop on a lathe and make a bong. But as an artist, that feeling you get when you create something and it's sitting in front of you, and you feel just great, and it's pride, and you're like, yeah, that's dope, and you can go back to it and kind of look at it, and I guess I'm the sort of, I don't know what the best word to describe it is. I'm the type of person that I get either enjoys this so much, radio, or enjoys hearing themselves talk so much that I can go back and listen to myself and other podcasts, old radio shows, and sit down and analyze it and go through it and kind of like, hey, this is what's best here, what's best there, that producer mindset. And I enjoy that shit. And taking the information from that and how you can best improve and move forward, picking that apart is super exciting and rewarding. And especially with something like this, you can do it maybe every day. You have something you can come back and listen to. It's cool and it's special. And if you get that good feeling with that, that's pretty awesome. But stuff like this, these liners and the show. Yeah, that's the shiz, man. All right. Another thing with like having the average viewers stay above so I can get this affiliate. We're above the average viewers so far. We were yesterday. 3.61. Got to be above average 3 for 7 days of streaming total. Already got the number of hours streamed. That's just as easy as like 8 hours total streamed. We did that in like 3 days. But the other thing is, unless there's going to be like 3, 4, 5 or more people sitting in here and hanging out with us while we play video games, not only do we not have the unlocked special things like, I'm not worried about the sub side of it yet necessarily, but like the betting and bits and things like that, the betting and points, channel points and stuff like that, that would be cool to have that stuff. But the, like all the other side, like the, fuck it, whatever. Let's see. God damn it, it's time to go. All right. Leak the Discord. I got a plan for this evening. I definitely need to do some laundry and do a little bit of cleaning up. And then lining up some things for the show, playing some video games so I can make myself feel more comfortable. Have some good times with you guys. All right. Unless there's more questions, I'm done. I think we lost the steam there. We have an outro song we can go to in here. And I don't have written permission from Goose yet to play any of his stuff, so I'm kind of afraid to play any of his things yet. Even this one might have royalty issues. Fuck it. Actually, let's play the first song on the Mega Drive that was here. Dun, 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 dun. Bike, he's hitting the eject button. He says, hit the eject button. Get out. Get out. Yeah, that's going to do it. Should be back tomorrow, guys. Till then, see ya.